So Jake learned about Jesus's failures as a Messiah. I think these are so funny because, like, the people that believe the, all of the messianic prophecies that they were like fulfilled and everything, they don't even know what the verses are in the Old Testament that he's supposed to be fulfilling, and so they're just like repeating what like their pastor said or whatever. But a lot of times it feels like their pastors don't even know what in the Old Testament they're even really referring to. So they end up just repeating shit. And then if you actually go back and read the Bible stories, they have nothing to do with what they're talking about. It's amazing.
All right. Well, let's start with liar, since that's the first one that I see on yours.
Sure. Yeah, so let's go to the verse we were just reading. I've already got it in my browser. It's going to be Matthew 16, 27 and 28. Jesus says to his disciples, the Son of Man is to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay everybody for what has been done. Truly, I tell you, there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom.
This is what I was literally just talking about. Yeah, that they will not taste death. The people standing here.
Did that happen?
Sorry, you're cutting out a little bit. Would you mind repeating that really quickly?
Yeah. In Matthew 16, 27, 28 says, the Son of Man is to come with his angels in the glory of his Father. Then he will repay everybody for what has been done. Truly, I tell you, there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Did that prediction come true?
I love when they just have to sit. It takes them so long because they're just sitting there like, wait, what was it? Say it again. You were cutting out. That give me more time to think. Hold on.
Kind of. I would say yes to the immediate context, because of 6 days later, I believe it was Matthew. Is that Matthew 17?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus takes Peter, James, and John to the mountain and is transfigured.
Right. So
and they see his divine glory.
Which of his disciples died in the 6 days?
I don't know.
None of them did. So that can't be the fulfillment, because he says there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. So he didn't come from anywhere in the transfiguration, and nobody died.
How would you get from there to there, dude? The way that they will just jump at something. Oh, maybe he's talking about, you say, no, there are those standing here that will not taste death before the Son of Man returns in the sky or whatever. And they go, well, but like 6 days later, the transfiguration happened. So what the hell does that have to do with anything? Like, I just gotta just see if that would stick. No, that doesn't work. No, that has nothing to do with anything that we're talking about here. How the hell does that how does that address anything that was said?
Yep.
So that can't be it.
Okay, yeah. Next excuse.
Well, so I think this is talking in dual language, or like dual prophecy, which was common during that area.
Dual prophecy. They're like, I've heard like a couple of people that like to say this quite a bit.
So
how do you know
like
when something is a dual prophecy or not?
That's a good question. It's mostly the criteria of the prophetic language itself. So like we can see this all written throughout the Old Testament. For example, people were constantly expectant of a Messiah. So there was the 300 years of quiet period, in which people were expectant of a Messiah. And that was due to a lot of the prophetic language that came before that.
Right, yeah. The prophetic languages said that the Messiah would be coming and he'd be a king and he'd defeat all of Israel's enemies and he'd reestablish the Levitical priests and all that stuff. But he didn't do any of that.
It's just like, I love the silence. That's like my favorite part of it. Somebody said the magic word.
Are you about to engage in blasphemy?
We are now. That is what we have moved on to. I guess we were kind of doing that the whole time, right? That's sort of been That's kind of my whole bag, actually. It's just a whole lot of blasphemy around here. But yeah.
Well, so he was named King of the Jews. That was what was on his cross.
No, he was mocked because he wasn't the king. They were making fun of him. It was like if somebody put a Burger King crown on my head and called me King of Burger King. It's a joke. It doesn't make me the King of Burger King.
So yeah, no, that makes you the king of the Burger King, the King of Kings, really, the King of the Burger Kings. What is it?
Right, but I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm
You're
pretty
wrong.
sure it was, what's his name? Pontius Pilate who put the King of the Jews
Well, I'm not
on the
sure.
cross.
I'm not sure it matters who put it on the cross. They were mocking him. They put a
Well,
crown of
so it
thorns on his
matters.
Jake-
Sorry,
Do you think that Pontius Pilate was like labeling it so that people understood? Is that it? They wanted people to know, like, oh yeah, by the way, make sure that this one's the. Let's make sure to label this. Okay, I want people to know that this guy's actually a king. So let's label the cross that we are torturing him to death on. We need to be able to, just to add the due honor that needs to be provided during this torture to death session here.
let you finish.
They put a crown of thorn on his heads and they were making fun of him.
Yeah, but Pontius Pilate wasn't. So Pontius
Yes.
Pilate was the one that respected him.
No.
Yeah, so Pontius Pilate was, in the immediate sense, was against the original sentencing because, well, so according to the Bible, he was originally against the immediate sentencing because he said, what crime has this man committed? So Pontius Pilate was against the crucifixion of Jesus and was for the crucifixion of Barabbas, it would seem, because he was advocating for Barabbas.
They were
And,
they were making
wait.
fun of Jesus.
It's
So-
funny because I know what he's talking about, but this is like obviously from the extremely theological perspective of like specific doctrines that like Pontius Pilate was he was a good guy, man. He was not making fun. He respected Jesus too. Okay. And he didn't even want to do it. It was the crowd that made him do it. And so that's why they had to do that common Roman practice of letting somebody go, which apparently not a Roman practice at all. That's just made up. They didn't that was not something they did back then. Just releasing people. But that somehow made it into the story. Just interesting.
As Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged, and the soldiers wove a crown of thorns and
The guy that respected him so much had him flogged, that's as people do to the people that they respect so much and actually do believe that they are kings of their kingdom, of their burger kingdom.
put it on his head, and they dressed him up in a purple robe, and they kept coming up to and saying to him, "Hail, King of the Jews," and striking him in the face. They're mocking him.
So I 100% agree with you. The part I disagree with is the fact that
And that would be a percentage that you don't agree. You know what?
one who gave him that title was not mocking him.
He didn't give him the title. He was making fun of him. They were making fun of him the whole time.
So yes, you're correct. The Jews and the Romans that were there were completely making fun of him. But again, correct me if I'm wrong, but
he has several times now.
I believe
You're still wrong. You were wrong back then, and you're going to be wrong this time.
Pontius Pilate was the one that put King of the Jews on the cross.
Yes, to make
Which-
fun of him
No,
because he wasn't the actual king. Pontius Pilate, if he actually admitted that there was another king other than Herod, would have been filleted by the Romans.
I had to get a drink of water. It's getting dry. Hold on. Give me just, you're breaking up again. Give me a chance to what?
That's
Yeah, that's true. And
that's an
the-
insurrection.
Yeah, but so again, I actually don't think I don't think it would have been an insurrection to claim that you are a ruler of a small group. So usually the thing that would,
Okay,
so
so
you're talking about Caesar, right?
I'm the king then.
No.
I rule the deconstruction community.
Yeah, you can totally make that claim.
Cool. Shit, I'm the Messiah then.
So that would not go against.
I'll take your tithes and worship now.
Sorry, I'm confused about the leap.
You didn't get it. I don't think you got it.
So what I'm saying is, if you claim to be a king right now, that would not be an insurrection against whoever is currently ruling as a authority.
Yep.
If it's over a small group. So it's claiming.
I don't know. Don't let Trump know that. Okay. Given that we are where we are when we are, it actually might be the case Trump would have you publicly executed by ICE, as it were, if you will, per se. I could see that happening.
That you are a religious leader is different than claiming you are a. So claiming someone is a king of the Jews.
Okay,
would be a religious figurehead.
Okay, so the head of the Sanhedrin was a king too. Caiaphas
Sorry,
was
what?
so Caiaphas was a king
He's drinking the hell out of that water right now.
as well.
What?
I'm not familiar with who that is. I'm sorry.
Caiaphas,
That might just be because I'm new to all this.
Caiaphas was the head of the Sanhedrin,
Then what are you doing? Why are you?
so he was a king as well.
Okay. I don't know.
Well, you just said anyone who's
possibly.
leading a group of people is now a king. So John the Baptist was a king too.
You could argue that, but I would disagree with the claim that John the Baptist was a king because he himself did not claim any sort of he did not claim authority. So he bowed before Jesus.
So
He said Jesus is the authority
so
when it comes to religious authority.
okay, so just claiming that you're a king makes you a king.
No, people have to obey that authority, and people did. People believed
Okay.
Jesus was the Messiah.
When for example,
So if you claim
when
to be a king and people agree with that, sorry, go ahead.
that's not how kingship works.
So wait, all it takes is like for some people, so for you to convince a couple people, kingness. That's how it works. Jesus.
Okay, so when King David was on the run while his son Absalom was chasing him, who was king?
And we call those lies, Brentley. That's right. That's right. And without lies, Christianity dies. That's right. What's up, Gretchen? How we doing?
So
And misinterpretations. What's up?
No, try again.
No, just that,
When King David was
Who am I
on the
thinking
run, when King David was on the run from his son Absalom, who was the king?
I don't know. I'm sorry. This is where I kind of lack biblical knowledge.
David was. King David was king.
He said king. Oh my God. That's incredible. It reminds me of that Who Lies in Booker T's Grave. It's like an old like I don't know if it's a IQ test question or something like that, but it was like an old question back in, like, I want to say like the 40s or 50s or something for testing. So it was like, who lies in Booker T's grave? And people would get it wrong, even though Booker T, man, that's the guy that's in Booker T's grave. What the fuck? What is happening? Why, but everybody, I guess, expects it to be some kind of like trick question or something. That's what it felt like. He's like, King David. It's like, who was king when King David was on the run? I'm very confused. This is actually a tough question for me to answer. King David, he was the king. What? Really? I just said it. It's like incredible. My God.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So,
sorry, I'm not sure if you were. I thought you were referring to when he was running from Saul.
No. Okay,
and I believe it is Saul, right?
He did run from Saul. So there's a narrative in.
Did a lot of running. He ran to Goliath after he ran to the river to get some extra smooth stones. There's very smooth stones. That's very important to the story. And then he ran from Absalom, ran from Saul. He did a lot of running.
Okay.
In the books of Samuel, it's in 2 Samuel, chapter
Got it.
15 and 16. So what happens is his son, Absalom, tries to take over the throne, and he gets a number of people to defect and follow him and elect him as king. And then he has so many people that he drives his forces into town and then tries to take over the throne. And King David has to flee in safety, and now he's on the run while Absalom takes
Your DNA, what's going on? How you doing? What's up?
over the palace. Okay, so during this whole charade where Absalom took
Pronounced Sherrod, but it's okay. I'm gonna let it. It's Justin, so I'm gonna let it slide.
over the palace and David is on the run, who was king?
David.
Yeah, that's right.
Very good, very good. Somebody's listening. Okay, somebody's bunnied up right over here.
Okay, so being the king isn't
Yeah.
something that happens just because someone claims they're the king or has followers, is it?
No, I would still say there's a. So you could argue that both of them are kings,
They
or
were
not kings, but rulers. I guess rulers would be a more accurate.
Okay, so not what we're talking about. Remember, because this whole conversation is because of the last conversation that we had about Jesus being the king of the Jews and having that sign over his cross, which was making fun of him, which you don't seem to understand.
Well, you could say
statement there.
ruler. Ruler, though, it now becomes a real gray area. Like if you're just saying
That's true.
if you're saying he's a ruler, that's meaningless to me. I care if he's an actual king because the prophecies about the Messiah says he's going to be a king, and he just wasn't a king. Which gets me to the second point, which is that he's a fraud. He's a false Messiah. The Messiah was supposed to be a real, true king who sat on the throne of King David and wielded a separate scepter. No king, no
Yeah,
Messiah.
you're right. I don't have an immediate
know?
response to that. I'm sorry.
Right?
Yeah, it's not okay. It's not okay. You just no.
So the fact that somebody like
You're right. You
mocked
make a solid
him,
case.
yeah, the fact that somebody mocked him. to
Well,
me,
again,
doesn't
I still
matter.
disagree with that claim.
What?
Right, but listen,
That's what all of this was for. And you basically still agreed to it. Oh my God. It's crazy when you could slow walk them that far to the point where they forgot what they were slow walking for at all. Like they just completely forgot what all of this was for. Like this was all to make the point that they were just making fun of him.
just mocking
So,
somebody as
yeah.
being a king doesn't fulfill the requirement of being the Messiah. Because
Right. So I
Simon Bar
disagree with the
Kokhba,
mocking claim. I agree with the other bit.
Simon Bar Kokhba was an actual ruler in Israel for a period of 3.5 years. Why isn't he the Messiah?
Because Jesus fulfilled a fair amount of dual prophecies.
Like what?
Oh, the dual prophecies. God, I forgot. Dual.
Let's see. So there was several in Isaiah. I believe there was some in Deuteronomy, and I believe the one.
Which ones? Yeah.
Well, pick your favorite one and we'll
Sorry.
talk about it.
Go ahead. Okay.
It's funny because and you can hear them. It's like, I think there's some over there, and there's a couple back in that place in Isaiah, and maybe in Deuteronomy too. I don't know. Like, because so often they don't even know what the actual verses are. They're just like, oh, he fulfilled the prophecies. And they hear it from somebody else that's just like, oh, but all those prophecies that he fulfilled in Isaiah and stuff. And they're like, man, that's wow. I'm going to log that away. And that's it. That's all they did was log that part away. They didn't go check what they were actually like saying was the prophecy that he fulfilled. Not to mention, of course, I always think it's funny when this happens because they could just write that he did fulfill stuff when they were writing the New Testament that was written after the Old Testament. What the hell? Why does everybody think this is so special? Anybody could do this.
Sorry, I have it saved.
I assume
Just
it's
give me 1 second to find it.
Isaiah 7 or Isaiah 9:6 or Isaiah 53, one of those prophecies.
I think Isaiah 7.
Yeah, Isaiah 7 is
Let me see if I
a
can
common
find it on
one.
my.
Yeah, 7:14. Yeah, let's read it.
Probably. Would you mind? Do you have it
Yeah.
there while
Yep.
I'm searching for it?
Yeah, I got it. So Isaiah 7 starts out.
Hold on.
It's while the king of
What's going on? Hold on. Before we get into that, I kind of want to isolate out something in the chat for a second here. There's okay. So Felicia was talking to Dr. Kip about it's about the Bible. It's funny. I was gonna say you can't say that you don't care about the Bible around here, god damn it. Not from like an atheist perspective. Like I get we don't think that it's true. But this will get Dr. Kip fired up. He said, yeah, my arguments usually stem from external analytic history, not intra-biblical study. I kind of don't care about the Bible on its own. I can't believe, whoa. Hey, let's cool it. All right, lady, look. No, but on its own, if that makes sense, which it does. But, and then Kip came back. This is fun. Said, I get it, but I encourage people to not just dismiss the texts in the Bible. A lot of them are still our best historical sources for a lot of things. And Felicia came back and said, I don't dismiss the text. The Bible is historically important. I dismiss the intra-biblical arguments. I don't find them fun, and that's fair. You can not find them fun, but no. But and it's funny too, because like for the longest time, I did not take like the Bible seriously. I think because I was raised to believe it in such a very specific way that it was kind of like easier for me to just sort of dismiss the whole thing. But I'm having a lot more fun actually going back and actually looking into the scholarship of it and everything. It's really cool.
Judah is under attack by two other kings, King Rezin and King Pekah, one from the Arameans and one from the northern Israelites, because the northern Israelites made an alliance with the Arameans, and they want to replace the king of Judah with a king that's favorable to the alliance. So they're under attack, and King Ahaz from Judah is freaking out, shaking in his boots. And so God sends the prophet Isaiah to him out to the fuller's field. They meet, and the end of the first prophecy, Isaiah says, if you do not stand firm in faith, you shall not stand at all. That's the end of the first prophecy. The second prophecy is the part about the supposed virgin birth that starts.
That's the prophecy. Hold on. What is it?
See,
Wait.
Isaiah says, if you do not stand firm in faith, you shall not stand at all.
If you do not stand firm in faith, you do not stand at all. That's the prophecy.
That's the end of the first prophecy. The second prophecy is the part about the supposed virgin birth that starts in verse 10. And it says, again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz, saying, ask a sign of the Lord your God. Let it be as deep as Sheol or as high as heaven. So first things first, I
love getting as high as heaven. Just want to say, that's a good time, I think, for everybody.
Is the prophecy being spoken to?
I believe it's speaking to. Are you saying who is it speaking to, or who is it talking about?
Who's being spoken to in verse 10? It says, again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz.
Yeah.
Right.
So Ahaz.
Yep. And the Lord said,
same thing. I've made a false distinction there.
That's okay. So the Lord said, ask a sign of the Lord your God, and let it be as deep as Sheol or as high as heaven. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, and I will not put the Lord to the test.
That's actually a pretty good question. Where DNA said, I wonder if the authors of the Bible ever thought the stories would ever be dissected and gone over with a fine-tooth comb. They probably would have like checked their work a few more times, I think, if they did think that, but I don't know. It's funny. Oh, I see. So you were on the. Wait, is this to Brent, or is you talking to me? So I was in the doorstep of entering Mundelean Seminary. I used to hold the Bible closed, but ever since I backed away, I found the lack of extra biblical evidence more interesting. Yeah, I actually myself, I really like the logical stuff. I don't know. I just find that quite interesting. But like I said, like looking at the scholarship is pretty cool too. It's but it's different. It's different. Like scholarship is not the same thing as like looking at like the theology of it all. It's very, very different. And a lot of times when you look at the scholarship, you can see how much the theology is incorrect because their interpretations of stuff are just all wrong. They don't know anything about the original text. They don't even know that like back in the day, like in the Old Testament, they believed in other gods. They don't know like so much about the Bible, how it came into existence, what was believed about those texts at the time they were written and stuff. They don't know any of that shit. So they just are looking at these Bible verses and they're just sort of making up a bunch of theology. And that, I think, is what turns a lot of us off, because we hear about the Bible from those fucking people the most, and so we kind of just don't want anything to do with it. But lately, I think looking at, like I said, the scholarship, like Bible, like Josh Bowen and Dr. Kip Davis here, and a lot of this stuff. It's just really interesting. It's a lot more fun. Anyway, and deconstruction zone. You know.
Then Isaiah said, "Hear then, O house of David, is it too little for you to weary mortals that you weary my God also? Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Look, the young woman is with child and shall bear a son and shall name him Emmanuel. He shall eat curds and honey by the time he knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good. For, excuse me,
He was what? He was eating the curds and honey. He shall eat curds and what the hell are curds? Because I don't feel like isn't when something curdles, that's bad. You're not supposed to eat curdled stuff. So I'd imagine the curds are the things that have been curdled, right? That's got to make sense.
before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land before whose two kings you are in dread will be deserted." So the prophecy is to King Ahaz, and what he says was, there's a child already conceived, about to be born, and before that child knows right from wrong, the two kings that you're afraid of, they're going to be wiped out.
What the hell are curds? Wait, hold on. I love Culver's. They don't have curdled stuff. What are you talking about? Everything I get from there is quite fresh, actually, especially those burgers. Wow. The butter, I think they call them the butter burgers. They are very good. And there's not much that you can do to make the butter burger better, because the butter burger is better. I can't do it. I was going to try to just freehand a whole tongue twister. It just didn't really pop there.
Did I miss anything?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Sorry,
Was
no.
there anything in here about a virgin birth?
So yeah, almost. So the Hebrew
Almost. If you, it's almost in there. If you twist your brain into a fucking pretzel, there you go.
word you're looking, so you're referring to young woman. So Alma is the Hebrew word for that, I believe.
Wait, a baby? Oh, cheese curds. Okay, that's right. I forgot they're called that. So they're just like fried cheese or whatever, right? The cheese curds. Anyway, but a baby was eating that. A baby was eating cheese curds. That baby's not gonna poop for like a week, dude. I don't think that's good for their insides there.
But culturally, it implied virginity.
No. Alma just means young woman.
Yeah, but I'm saying so.
Yeah, and that's the that what he's talking about is the part in Snatch, right? You know the movie Snatch, at the very beginning when they're walking from one CCTV set to the next. You know, when all the names are coming up. Remember back in the day, they used to have names at the beginning of the movies for like 30 fucking minutes or whatever. Anyway, but like. And that's what they're talking about, because they're all dressed up like the Hasidic Jews, and they're talking about how the word Alma is actually a misinterpretation of the Old Testament, and and so it actually just meant young woman, did not mean virgin, but that's but apparently a whole prophecy thing came out of that misunderstanding of the Old Testament. This is kind of funny.
Culturally, at the time, it implied virginity, so it was typically it was referring to a young woman, a young unmarried woman of childbearing age.
No, it's just a young, marriageable or already married woman. Her virginity is not even specified. If you want to talk about a virgin, you would call her a Bethula. That's the specific word for virgin. Young woman, just.
So, Dr. Kip, said, no, it absolutely did not imply virginity. The word most likely pointed to the sexual status of a woman who has not yet born children. Okay, so there's there's a distinction there between the two, right? You got a woman that doesn't have kids that is also not a virgin. Those two, there's a Jesus. That's so funny. How interesting. I did not realize that, but that makes sense. They don't have like distinctions for those things.
Means young woman. She could be a virgin. She
Oh.
could not be a virgin.
Oh,
Now,
wow,
if she's
thank you.
unmarried,
Hold on.
then it's expected that she's a
Pop that up there. Flip normal. Gave $5. Holy shit. Thank you so much. Hold on, please. Cool. So gotta wobble off, Bradley. Have a great week. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for hanging out.
virgin, obviously, because she's not married. If she is married, then she wouldn't be a virgin, obviously. And here it's clear that she's not a virgin because it says that she is chara, meaning she is with child. It's an adjective. She's pregnant.
Right. So that's why I'm saying there's the immediate fulfillment of the prophecy, and then there's the eternal fulfillment of the prophecy.
What? There's you get immediate and eternal fulfillments. We get all the fulfillments all over the place. Like
Right. So why would I believe that there's
So
two
it
fulfillments
also
of this
says
prophecy?
that the Lord himself.
it didn't even fulfill one. But this dude's like, no, we're stacking fulfillments, dude. What are you talking about?
Mhm.
Jesus.
Because that's what the Jews believed.
So do you know why
So
they? Do you know
the
why
Jews
they?
at the time were expecting.
Do you know why they came
Sorry,
up
go
with
ahead.
this nonsense of multiple prophecy fulfillments?
Well, so that was
I'm gonna go out on a limb. No. I don't think he did. No.
pretty common though for prophetic language at the time.
No.
So like many of the prophecies came with an immediate fulfillment and an eternal fulfillment.
No, they didn't.
I like butter. Oh, I do. I like butter too. Sometimes I just melt it just so I can drink it. Doctor says I gotta stop doing that though. So my veins aren't gonna handle it. There's stuff building up inside there, you know? Apparently I gotta work on that. It's bullshit.
This is something that
Like move to like light cream and stuff. I refuse. How am I supposed to drink? It's heavy cream, god damn it. And you don't drink anything else. Sometimes I just drink the heavy cream like it's milk. That's how I eat cereal. And everybody talks to me like I'm crazy when I tell them that. But I'm like, holy shit, cereal tastes so much better with heavy cream. What's wrong with everybody? Plus, you need that fat in the morning to kind of, give you the energy for the day. Because, just whatever's in that cereal, so that's not going to do it. You got to have some kind of sustenance,
people made up
I don't
much.
really know how to respond to that. That was
I know. This is something that people
Sorry,
made
go
up.
ahead.
Yeah, I know. We get that. We know you don't know how to respond to it. That's what we're, that's why Justin does these.
Later as a cope when the prophecies didn't literally come true.
Oh, hold on. Let me see.
This is something that people made up
I don't
much.
really know how to respond to that. That was
I know. This is something that people
Sorry,
made
go
up later as a cope. When the prophecies didn't literally come true,
I love it.
they had to make up different interpretive models rather than just admitting that.
What? That Kip does it too. What? You do? That's so funny. I'm always like treated like I'm insane for eating for eating that shit. Or with eating for whole cream. Yeah, heavy cream. Oh, so good though.
They didn't come true. They would say, oh, well, it didn't completely come true. It only kind of came true. The rest of it, the fuller picture will come true later. And so they just changed the meaning of the prophecies rather than admitting that they wouldn't come true. And we can see this happening in the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea Scrolls, they go through Habakkuk and some of the other prophets in the Bible, and they just rewrite it. They're like, oh, they wouldn't come true. And we can.
Hold on. I want to look at this comment because I was like, did I miss something? I feel like I missed something. Guys, okay. So Dave said, also, even if it were a virgin birth and Emmanuel somehow meant Jesus, which it doesn't, it's just so funny because like, and you shall name him Jesus. Is that no Emmanuel? But it somehow means Jesus. Don't think about it. Just repeat it, please. How does this prophecy help King Ahaz's situation? I'm not really sure. Where is the Ahaz situation? I don't remember. Are we talking about that? Is that and he said, yeah, King Ahaz was a piece of shit, but Yahweh made a covenant with his great grandfather. So. Oh wait, Yahweh and Isaiah really do not like Ahaz. I got to go back and read Isaiah. I guess that's what this is. I haven't gotten to that part of Dr. Kip's book yet, but yeah, we'll got to get back to that at some point.
Through the rest of it, the fuller picture will come true later. And so they just change the meaning of the prophecies rather than admitting that they wouldn't come true. And we can see this happening in the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea Scrolls, they go through Habakkuk and some of the other prophets.
Habakkuk. What the? It just sounds fun. It's just a funny word there.
It's in the Bible, and they just rewrite it. They're like, oh, this word actually means this now, and this word means this, and this people group is actually this people group. And they just rewrite everything for their own time period, even though Habakkuk wasn't writing about their time period, because Habakkuk said things that didn't come true. Isaiah said things that didn't come true. So they're just going in and saying, well, we can't admit that they didn't come true, so now we have to go in and develop new interpretive models rather than admitting defeat.
Well, except for
oh my God, it's so weird. It feels like they were MAGA people back then that were like making up reinterpretations to like validate the wrongness all the time. Crazy. It's almost like this mental gymnastics shit have been going on for quite some time.
Agree in partiality. So I agree in the sense that there was later added features. So we know.
Holy shit. I'm sorry. I know I'm sidetracking with this whole cereal thing, but this is really it's got me thrown for a loop. Because out here in Canada, half cream is even called cereal cream. What? Well, first of all, we call that half and half here, I think. But I don't know why. I don't know why we don't even describe what it's half and half of at all. It's just half and half. That's it. We're done talking. But that's so funny. They call it cereal cream, which is pretty good. Heavy cream's better though. Just saying. You need that other half to be heavy.
In John, for example, there was a couple of things that were later added, and there's some things in Hebrew that were altered, but most of the things that were altered in very minor ways, and the dual prophetic language was pretty common during that era. So there was the expectation that there was a immediate. What? Sorry, what'd you say?
I know, yeah. This idea that a prophecy could have multiple meanings or even many meanings was common. I reject it. I think it's silly. I think when Isaiah wrote his prophecies, I don't think he had in mind that it had many fulfillments. I think he had a primary context, a primary fulfillment, and then when it didn't come true, people started to cope.
Yeah, except the only thing I find difficult with Isaiah specifically is just the wording. So the wording implies more depth and weight. So the idea of the Lord himself.
Yeah.
The Lord himself.
Yeah, Yahweh is going to give you a sign.
Demands a certain level of... Right.
Why is that deep?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Why is that a deep thing?
Why is that deep, man?
Why is what a deep thing? I missed what you said.
You said the Lord himself will give you a sign is somehow deep. I don't see why. The Lord himself is talking to the prophet, who's in turn talking to Ahaz, and he's telling Ahaz, ask for a sign. Why is Yahweh telling Ahaz to ask for a sign?
I don't know.
Because he wants him to stand firm in his faith during the time of war. The end of the last prophecy was, if you do not stand firm in faith, you shall not stand at all.
Oh, that's the guy. Okay. God, names. It's like they fall right out of my head as soon as I hear them.
And then
that's what we were talking. Got it. Never mind.
Very next thing, God sends the prophet again and says, listen, ask for a sign. He's trying to shore up the faith of Ahaz.
Yeah. So also, sorry, if you wouldn't mind reminding me, is this the prophecy that talks about Emmanuel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not Jesus, Emmanuel.
Again, I'm so sorry about my lack of knowledge. Like I'm so new to this.
Now you're literally every Christian on planet Earth, dude. Don't apologize. You are doing actually better than 95% of Christians here.
And I'm really nervous because you seem to be rather in depth about this stuff.
Plus, you got a lot of people watching right now, dude.
I've had a head start.
I thought, yeah, I'm hoping I can catch up at some point, but we shall see. We'll find out what I believe later. But so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Emmanuel means God with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which
Okay, see, that's what you guys are talking about. So you're talking about where this prophecy came from. I got it now. I don't know why I did that. That name just totally fell out of my brain. So yes, didn't accept the prophecy and enlisted instead the help of the Assyrians, which did lead to the destruction of his enemies. I see. Okay, yeah, that's what. Yeah, I got to go back and read Isaiah again.
The child that what was Ahaz's wife name?
Well, we don't actually know who the mother of the child is. There's some speculation. I think the mother of the child was the wife of Isaiah, the prophet. Some people think that it's one of the wives of Ahaz and is referring to the birth of Hezekiah. That is possible. It could be referring to the birth of Hezekiah. I think the most likely reading, though, is that it's referring to the birth of the child in chapter 8, or a child that is born.
What's up, Sons of Mice? How you doing, dude? It's good to see you.
Just like the child in chapter 8. So in chapter 8, we have a really interesting turn of events. So the ending of the prophecy that we're interested in ends with how it's going to come out, right? It says, before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land before whose two kings you are in dread will be deserted. Well, how is that going to happen? It says, the Lord will bring on you and on your people and your ancestral house as such days as have not come since the day that Ephraim departed from Judah, the king of Assyria. On that day, the Lord will whistle for the fly that is at the source of the streams of Egypt and for the bee that is in the land of Assyria. So he's saying, I'm going to bring the army of Assyria down, and he's going to beat these two kingdoms up, and he's going to take his turn at you as well. You're not going to like it, but you're going to get through it. Now, this begins to come true in chapter 8, actually. So if you go to chapter 8, the prophet goes into his wife, has a child. In fact, he names the
It goes into. Oh, is that a TikTok thing? Because you can't say. He goes right on in there. That's right. Part of him goes in there, and then they have a kid and
child. It says, I went to the prophetess, and she conceived and bore a son. Then the Lord said to me, name him Maher-shalal-Hash-Baz. For before the child knows how to call my father or my mother, the wealth of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria will be carried away by the king of Assyria. So again, there's another child with a prophetic name. And it says of the child, before he's old enough to be able to do something, God's going to deal with these two kingdoms. Damascus was the primary city of the Arameans, and Samaria was the primary city. Samaria and Ephraim were the primary territories of northern Israel. So he's saying, just like with the child in chapter 7, here's another child, and before that child is old enough to say mommy or daddy, the king of Assyria is going to come and wipe them out. And then it actually comes true. If you go down to verse 7, therefore the Lord is bringing up against it the mighty flood waters of the river, the king of Assyria, and all.
Oh, so that, okay, I think I understand what's going on here. So he said, so that is the prophecy that they're expecting Jesus to fulfill. Yet he's saying, nope, that was fulfilled later in the same story, not by Jesus.
All of his glory, it will rise above all of its channels and overflow all of its banks. It will sweep on into Judah as a flood, pouring over, will reach up to the neck, and its outspread wings will fill the breadth of your land. Then it's interesting that the English translation says, O Emmanuel, right here. That's not really where it is in the Hebrew text. Mm-hmm. In the Hebrew text, it includes it at the beginning of take notice. It says, O Emmanuel, take notice, you people, and be dismayed. Listen, all you far countries, and gird yourselves and be dismayed. Take counsel together, but it shall be brought to naught. Speak a word, but it shall not stand, for God is with us. So the prophet is telling you what it means, what Emmanuel means in the context of the prophecy. Emmanuel means that God is with them during the war.
That from that time, it's got nothing to do with the New Testament. It almost feels like when they're like haphazardly putting this stuff together in order to like make Jesus fulfill all these prophecies and stuff. It's just almost feel like they're just like just like grabbing stuff from the Old Testament and then just be like, we could play off that, we could play off this, like not really like paying attention to what the words are really even saying. It just feels like they're trying, I don't know, like they're starting a cult and they're trying to get validity for their cult.
Right. The same way that the name of the child in verse 3, Mahershala Hashbaz, means the wealth of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria will be carried. What does that mean? Blah, 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 blah. What does that name mean again? Anyways, I'll have to look it up later. But so all of his children have prophetic names or at least titles, right?
I agree with that bit.
Right. And when the prophecy seems to be coming true, the prophet himself shouts out twice, "O Emmanuel," because he seems to be understanding that the prophecy is that God is with us, not that there's a child who literally is God.
Yeah, but the other prophetic. So again,
it's crazy that you have to explain that much shit. See, this is why it's so much harder to explain why something is incorrect, especially when it has to do with like Old Testament prophecies and stuff. You got to go into all that shit to be like, see, it's not about Jesus.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the other names you're referring to, none of them are the idea that are attributing godlike attributes to the name. So it's not God with us. It's like I actually don't know them off the top of my head. I just had them a second ago, but now I'm like mad stressed. But I'm pretty
relax, buddy. It's okay. You don't stop taking life so seriously. It's all right, bud. Okay.
Pretty sure that the names weren't literally fulfilled in the time of Ahaz, correct?
Yeah, they were. Because what was prophesied came true. God said that he would be with them while the king of Assyria relieved them of the two other kings, and that he would be with them even as the king of Assyria came down and kind of beat up Judea. He would be with them throughout the whole thing, and he was.
I love the silence. Like it's been, well, hold on.
There are 3 different prophecies about God being with Israel during this war.
So is Emmanuel more than a name then? Is it like could it be used as a statement? So if I gave someone a name, God with us, that would be implying like a certain level of godhood to the person I'm giving the name to. If I said Emmanuel, would that be different, or are you saying that would be the same?
Well, I think it's roughly the same.
I genuinely don't know.
I think it's roughly the same. So like somebody could have a name, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it is a description of the person with the name. Just like Hezekiah just means, strong Yahweh. It could be translated, depending on how you do it. It could be translated into Yahweh is my strength. There's some discussion there, but there's a lot of prophetic names or theophoric names in the Hebrew Old Testament or the Hebrew scriptures, but that doesn't mean that the person that they're ascribed to is describing the person that are given the names.
Well, but I'm pretty sure the names that you're referring to are mostly in praise of God. So like God is mighty, or I'm trying to remember the names. I can't currently do that, but I'm pretty sure the only one that attributes a certain level of godhood is Emmanuel.
No, Hezekiah does.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
So Hezekiah is
what's Hezekiah's?
It's a combination of 2 words, hazach, which means strength or strong, and then kaya, or technically it'd just be Yah. So hazach Yah would be.
That's how you say Hezekiah back then. Hazach Yah. Cool.
Strong Yahweh.
Strong Yahweh. That's funny.
Okay.
He's the strong one. He's the strong of the Yahwehs.
Sorry, I
He was Yahweh after he started going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
But Hezekiah was not strong Yahweh.
So, okay. So
See, there's this whole consistency thing, you know. It's you gotta make sure it's consistent. And if there's other examples of it not working the way that you're saying it works, then it doesn't work.
that's one of the names I thought I knew, because I thought Hazak meant to strengthen.
Like this thing.
So I thought it didn't mean strength. I thought it meant to strengthen. So in other words, Yahweh strengthens.
No, this is where it's actually really important to understand grammar. So in Hebrew,
100%.
you've got like a 3 consonant root, right? So you've got
This dude's actually quite pleasant. He's so much more pleasant, and it's like we actually get to sit here and learn a bit from this one because he's actually sitting and listening and not interrupting every 2 seconds in a ball of fury and rage at what he's saying. So it's actually kind of nice. I feel like you don't hear these kind of calls very often.
chazak, and that would be a verb if you said chazak, is you got the 2 A class vowels forming the conjugation of the cal verbal stem. But you can actually just make that into a noun, the same verbal root, just different vowels, right? So when we look at Hezekiah, it actually has an E class vowel or a short I class vowel at the beginning of it. So chazak could be a verb to strengthen, but the way that it shows up in the text doesn't show it in the verbal form.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's that's what I was sort of thinking about when actually I wasn't, but thanks.
Gotcha. Sorry, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's a difference between chazak and hezach. You know what I mean?
Okay. Good to know.
So
and you said one is verb form and one is
nonverbal, yeah.
What was the other one?
Yeah.
Nonverbal. Okay, got it.
So it just be in like the nominal format.
So it would be like is strong or whatever, strengthened.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I did not know that before just now.
Yeah. So Hebrew is one of those weird languages where there's like a 3 consonant root. And so depending on how you add vowels to the consonants, it depends on how you're going to translate it. But unfortunately, and this is where things get muddy, unfortunately for us, the original Hebrew text didn't have vowels. So it gets a little more difficult. So like when we're,
how are we able to translate it?
So the Masoretic scribes added vowel pointers in. About 200 years after Jesus died, they started adding vowel pointers into the text.
I see, like a noun. Okay, I got it.
Masoretes mostly completed their work at about the 6th or the 7th century BCE or CE. But the original text did not have vowel pointers. They were added later. So the reality is, once you get rid of the vowel pointers, you actually got some options.
They didn't have these pointers during the time of the text. They happened 200 years after Jesus. So what is that, like? I don't even know. Like pretty close to 2,000 years ish. No, 1,000 years ish after they were originally written.
I'm sorry. So the Hebrew Old Testament was written over the course of a couple hundred years, probably, I don't know, around the time of Josiah, up to the 1st and 2nd century. Daniel was probably one of the latest. And then the vowel pointers weren't added until the Masoretic period, which is starting in about 200 CE.
So approximately like 800 years then.
Oh yeah.
After the texts were originally written, they were these the vowel pointers were added in.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's tough.
Right. So it makes it a little.
So it wasn't about that. Okay, that's what he's saying is that That's so crazy. So they went back and added stuff to the language.
A little bit difficult to know precisely what is always meant.
What is being said?
Because they were okay, so they were like interpreting stuff and then adding in characters and stuff as it was being I mean, even back then. So you're having to like try to keep up with all of that. Wow, that's wild. That's got to make things complicated.
When we're translating it, which is why like I always give a little bit of leeway when you have a word and the translation of the word is dependent on just like the vowels. Well, that's pretty slippery if you want to make an argument based on just vowels, because we don't 100% know what was intended by the original author. But we, at some point, we do have to trust the Masoretic scribes a little bit. But how much do we have to trust them? It's hard to say.
Yeah. Okay. I again did not know that.
This dude is very cordial. Like, honestly, this is like what probably the best the best conversation I think I've heard on his channel.
Oh, I feel so bad. I am not representing anything very well right now.
Yeah, you are. You kind of are, dude. I mean, not necessarily Christianity being true, but the fact that you're like open and honest and actually listening and responding to what was said prior to, like, you know, that's good. Like, honestly, again, doing better than 95% of the quote unquote callers or whatever you call them on TikTok that I've seen on this channel.
No, it's okay. So the fact of the matter is, we're talking about Isaiah chapter 7, and Isaiah chapter 7 is talking about a child that's going to be born. And it says that before the woman's already pregnant, before the child knows right from wrong, the two kings that you're afraid of are going to be wiped out. And then they get wiped out by the king of Assyria, exactly the way the prophecy was foretold. So it seems to be that the prophecy came true the way it was supposed to come true. So I guess the next question I would ask then is, like, why would I look at this prophecy and think that there's like another fulfillment of it, unless the king of Assyria is going to come and defeat Israel's new enemies? Like, because that's really what the prophecy is about. If it's going to come true a second time, I would imagine that it would still be related to the original prophecy somehow.
I like that, and that makes a lot of sense too. To get what you say, honestly, just like the way the story reads better, it's prophecy delivered to Ahab. I like the idea that he lived with this reminder of his unfaithfulness, so it's not. Is what that's interesting. That makes sense, honestly, and I could see them, you know, recording it that way, or being, you know, meant to be that way anyway back then, to kind of give it that extra bit of Bible-ness. I don't know if that's the right word. The moral structure. I don't know.
That's something completely different.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So I guess this would be kind of my only 2 cents to add to that was, so like the immediate prophecy, yeah, I would say was fulfilled then in Isaiah's day. But I don't think that necessarily rules out a second fulfillment, especially because it does follow a pattern that was like already previously set with other prophecies.
Right, but
just the prophetic language.
But why would I?
What would connect it to Jesus?
I think that there's another fulfillment here. If there's a second fulfillment, it still needs to be connected to the original context. If it's not, then it could be about anything. Like, if you're saying we can just go into a prophecy, disconnect it from its original context, disconnect it from its original meaning and intent, then I can make any prophecy about me. I mean, that's not hard at all. Isaiah 65:9, I will bring forth descendants. Boom, I fulfilled that. There you go.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I gotta read this. That's so cool. That would make it makes sense, honestly, the way that, you know, being a Bible scholar and everything. That would make being a Bible scholar so much more fun. Hold on, Dr. Kip said, see, I have a bad tendency to imagine the real world behind the text, and it gets a bit dramatic in my fantasy. It's like Game of Thrones. you've got like a Game of Thrones thing going on, but with like prophecies and stuff. That's so and prophets. And, well, I guess they should have had those and prophecies. Think about it in Game of Thrones, but with less or fewer penises, right? Don't have to deal with all those. Wait, actually, what am I talking about? This is the Old Testament. Oh, more penises, right? And pieces of the penises. Actually, that's kind of a big thing. Anyway, back to the sorry.
I would agree with that. The only distinction that I would make was like one, Isaiah as a prophetic text in the first place. A fair amount of his prophecies tended to work like that. Like I'm trying to think of them off the top of my head.
I don't think any of them did.
9 and 11.
No, I don't think any of them.
Well, so I'm pretty sure
were dual prophecies.
Okay.
Like you're just assuming that they're dual prophecies because that's the only way you can make them about Jesus.
Yeah, that's the problem. As they're all like grabbing these prophecies, that it's funny too. I didn't honestly a lot of the ones I hadn't really looked into the Isaiah ones, so it's kind of interesting because I didn't even realize that those were prophecies back then. That they were like, oh, these are prophecies, because so many times it felt to me like you would just read in the Old Testament and it's about something just completely random and it didn't even say it was a prophecy. They're just like, oh, this kind of lines up, some of the words are sort of the same, and so that must have been prophecy, even though nobody said it was a prophecy. And they're just, we're just deciding that it's a prophecy after the fact, as this like post hoc rationalization so that we can find all the goddamn connections we possibly can from Jesus and any details about anything that has to do with him and anything in the Old Testament. But these ones are actually even labeled as prophecies, but they're prophecies that were literally fulfilled in the text back then. So that's really fascinating. Yeah, it's really interesting stuff, gotta say.
I'm trying to figure out why should I accept the idea that these prophecies have multiple fulfillments. And I know that there were Jews in the first century who
exactly. Thank you. Yeah, Dave, it's just post hoc cope. That's it. Yeah, post hoc copio.
Agreed with the Christians that many of these prophecies had multiple meanings, but they were wrong too. I'm asking you just from a contextual look at the prophecies, why would I think that there are multiple fulfillments?
Because you're supposed to.
So when you're saying just looking at the text, would that be excluding expectations of a future Messiah?
No, what I'm saying is that
the Jews were expectant of a future Messiah. So like the name Emmanuel, God with us, you could argue was not literally fulfilled in the time of Ahaz, but
it
was literally filled in the New Testament.
No, it wasn't.
See, because he thinks, I guarantee he thinks that Emmanuel has, or Messiah has to mean God in human form, which is not necessarily what Messiah means.
It was literally fulfilled the way it was intended during the reign of King Ahaz. The name was not saying there's going to be a God child. The name was a prophetic name, just like his other children, declaring what God is doing.
And we just went over this, like literally a few minutes ago. Silence.
Sorry, I'm
thinking.
Multitasking. You said it was declaring what God was doing. Did I get the end bit of that correct? So I would agree with. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, he named his first child "A remnant shall return." Like all of his children just have these,
and that was like Shear, Joshua.
I never remember these long names, but yeah, something.
I know they're so grim.
But the long and short of it is like all of his children had prophetic names, and so like why would I think that this is any different?
Well, because he had. What was it? Was it 3?
I have to do the dual. So, but and I can't now. Of course, it's eluding me. But no, there is something else that is known as a dual prophecy in the context, right? But I can't remember what they were. I feel like I remember Yeah, I don't even know who was right. One of y'all, I feel like, whether it was Kip or Justin or Josh, talking about this, and yeah, it's eluding me. But I feel like there was a context within the old, the Old Testament, and whatnot, of dual prophecies. But
because there was another one which was quick to the plunder was another one. I can't remember where that was, but
that's weird. Quick to the blunder. That sounds like a punk album, actually. That could be a punk band. Now think about it. Quick to the plunder. That works. We got to write that down. Yeah, Kevin, the punk. We'll make a shirt, a punk band shirt of Quick to the Blunder. Yeah, well, it'll be cool.
So I think it's because Emmanuel fits the pattern, but it's even more so. The God with us. It declares God's. So I think it declares God's presence.
We already did this.
I agree. Yeah, it declares God's presence
just like the others
with Israel.
Sorry, go ahead.
Israel.
No, I agree. It's a sign of God's presence with Israel during what time period?
Back to when they were in. It's the Old Testament. We just went over this, I thought.
So are you asking me for the dates or during the rule? Because you said
the exact date, and I'd like the times as well, if you don't mind, and location. Specifically, if you're longitude and latitude, that'd be great. I can work with that.
Before it was
during Ahaz's time. Yeah. It's a sign for King Ahaz.
We just went over this.
King Ahaz wasn't alive when Jesus was born. It's not a sign for King Ahaz if it's Jesus.
Well, see, he's gonna say, "What's both?"
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how else to answer that. You make a solid case. I won't lie.
I mean,
I'm trying to think. Like, my brain isn't working this fast. I'm sorry.
The only way you can really make it about Jesus is if you say it has a second meaning. But why would I accept a second meaning, especially when the second meaning just isn't connected to the original context? Because we can go into any of the prophecies and just apply a second.
It was just dead silent for 2 whole minutes, just sitting there.
Meaning, I mean, who gets to choose which prophecies get 2 meanings?
That's a good point.
Because you don't know. You don't think that all.
That's a good point. Hold on a second. Now I'm just. Maybe the Christians are wrong about this or something. You know what? Maybe I should start to deconstruct.
All of the prophecies have 2 meanings, right?
I don't know all of them. I've literally been doing this for the past couple of months, but I don't know how many there are. So given the way you're saying that, I would assume no.
Right. Yeah. There's many hundreds of prophecies. Right.
Okay.
So the fact of the matter is there are no second meanings to the prophecies. These are hermeneutics that were invented because.
Oh, that's the. Okay. Yes, I see what you're saying. That was the prophecy. Right? So by the time the child can say "mommy" or "daddy," the spoils of his enemies will be carried off, and by the time the child knows right from wrong, the lands will be desolate. Those were the prophecy. And that was through the names, right? That was the. Okay.
They knew that Jesus didn't fulfill any actual prophecies. So if you squint hard enough and say that there's a second meaning to this prophecy, we can make it about him, even though the original context isn't about him. And to me,
it reminds me of when you hear I can't remember who it is. I think it was that red pen logic guy. He had said that we were talking about the Christmas story of Jesus's birth and everything, right? And a big part of it is they go to different places. The stories, you got 2 different spots where the Christmas story is. I want to say Luke and Matthew, but they're different. They go to different places. And one of the things that Red Pen Logic said was, no, just because they don't mention each other doesn't mean that didn't, that it's that it's they did both. They went back and forth 3 different or like 4 different times or something in order to make it make sense, because they each say they went to different places or in a different order and stuff. And he's like, no, we could just fix this by layering them on top of each other and just say they went both places and then came back and went to the other place just nonsensically. Whatever. This is so funny. Jesus.
This is just not being honest. Like, if Jesus didn't fulfill a single prophecy within its original context in which the prophecy was given, then that dude didn't fulfill any prophecies.
So why were people expecting a Messiah then? If there wasn't a dual, because I'm pretty sure the vast majority of the prophecies were speaking in terms of dual prophecy. So,
Gretchen, are you giving away the ending? Okay, I don't catch this. If I remember this one correctly, it never gets any better than this. Jake blew an hour of his life and our time and learned nothing. It's already kind of feeling that way. I see why you're saying that, because that's absolutely how this is already sounding, because it seems like he forgot. Christians never yeah, my bad. I don't know why I even assumed that they would learn something that's stupid. I don't know what I'm doing over here. But yeah, that sounds about right, because he hasn't learned anything. He just had to go back over something that he had just explained. And if I picked it up, holy shit, where are you? Because my brain is all over the place. Okay, I'm thinking 17,000 different things at every given moment, and I still caught it. So what the hell, dude?
If it's not, why were people expecting a Messiah in the first place?
Because they were coping, is what I told you before. Because the prophecies didn't come true. And because they didn't come true, they had to come up with alternative ways of reading the prophecies to say, oh, it actually will come true. It didn't fail. Just squint hard and turn your head this way, and then it's not a failed prophecy. That's what they were doing.
Holy shit.
It doesn't matter if people during the time of Jesus thought that dual prophecy was a real thing. The question is, what was intended by the author of the text? I have no reason to believe that the author of any of these prophecies had in mind that there would be multiple fulfillments, especially when a lot of them didn't get fulfilled even in the original context, and they'll never get fulfilled. Like Isaiah 14 contains a prophecy which it's literally impossible for it to be fulfilled. The time has already passed. It talks about how the Israelites are going to take the Babylonians captive and turn them into slaves. That never happened, and it never will happen, because the Babylonians don't exist anymore.
Shoot. We're going to need, maybe after the U.S. decimates some country on the other side, we can bring back that, that Babylon, so they can make it all happen. They could do what they're trying to do, like what they were trying to do with Israel, and make the end times happen by forcing it to happen.
So
Wow, that is just.
Just want to summarize really quickly, because there were a couple of points made, and I want to make sure I'm representing you well here. So it was a coping mechanism kind of created by the Jews in later time periods for the hope of basically future salvation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in some prophecies didn't come true, which would further establish that idea.
Yeah. Not only did they not come true, they didn't even come close to coming true. So, for example, the book of Daniel is just a giant cope, right? So Daniel is writing in 522 during the reign of King Darius. And he's like, hey, what gives? It's been 70 years. Jeremiah said after 70 years, everything would be restored. There'd be a king on the throne. We'd have a Levitical priest in the temple. And, God would never pluck us out of the land again. And so he's sitting there something's wrong. And so he's reading the law of Moses. And in Leviticus 26, says, it kind of theoretically, depending on what you think about it, it's foretelling the fact that the Israelites are going to be rebellious. And it says, if you do not.
Hold on a sec. So, Dr. Gibbs said the prophets did not imagine that there were secondary fulfillments. Hell, even the early Jewish readers just thought that they knew better than the prophet. That's funny. Jesus Christ. Unbelievable.
Return to me, even after I've sent all these plagues among you for disobedience, I'll multiply your suffering by 7. So Daniel's like, oh, that's why the prophecy of Jeremiah didn't come true, because God is going to multiply our suffering by 7. So it's not going to be for 70 years. It's going to be for 490 years, which is a huge cope that whoever's writing this is engaging in. So he writes this big, like, prophecy about after finally these 490 years, then finally the promise of God is going to come true, and there's going to be this eternal kingdom and a king on the throne and all this stuff. And then that didn't happen either. And you know what they did? They said, well, if we squint and look hard enough, we can just say that this is going to come true later.
4,000, it was times 10. We forgot about the times 10. It's, you know, once it turns into times 10 once you have to use the rock to look through the rock into the hat to be able to translate the plates. We forgot the rock makes it times 10. It's a whole thing. You don't understand.
The timeline was off. God changed his mind. Like there's no end to the amount of copes for Daniel's cope not coming true either. So like they were doing this with all the prophecies. They knew what the prophecies original meant, what the original intention of the prophecy was. Then when they didn't come true, they went into cope mode and said, well, they can't just fail. So let's find a new way to say they're going to come true later.
Yeah. So,
and see, it's like, I always have like an extra cynical take. I feel like a lot of times, and Dr. Kip, I feel like would know this, but like but none of the people that were writing this and the people that were reinterpreting it later, they were genuine believers of this stuff, because it sounds like what he's saying is that they were genuine believers, and that's why they were doing this cope stuff. But it always seems to me like too that they were also trying to figure out how to control people and get people to be able to do what they wanted them to do by using these scriptures and acting like they know what they mean. But I don't know, maybe that just came later. Is that just the, you know what I mean?
Daniel's prophecy, are we referring to, what was this, Daniel 9?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, mm-hmm. So from my understanding of that one, it was...
Faith is useless as fuck. But all right, y'all. I got a wrapper there. I enjoy going over these calls and stuff. They're kind of cool, especially the ones like this where we're actually getting into the Old Testament, the prophecies, stuff like that. Like I said, thanks again, everybody, for hanging out. If you haven't already, please, finger that like button or whatever. I'd appreciate it. And it really does help when it comes to putting the content out to more people and everything. So if you don't mind, just bash that like button, whatever. But also, if you want to support the show, there's a bunch of different ways you could do that. They're all listed here, and you got all the links for them in the description. So if you want to check that out, if you want to help us out here, it's always much appreciated. But hey, the main thing though is to stay logical, stay loving, stay skeptical and compassionate, and we will see you next time.